Casuals Encounters. You're joined by myself, Will, from Casuals Corner MMA, and Leo Cooper as well. You may know him from films such as Leo Cooper's Casuals Guide to every single weight class, which he has now completed. Leo, as always, let's not even mess about. Let's jump straight into it because I thought it was quite a good card last night and quite a big event feel, I felt like, being in Canada for the first time. What did you think, UFC 289? Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the crowd definitely made it. I think that's what I think you get that when you go to places where, to be honest, basically anywhere that's not America, basically, you're going to get a barn burner crowd, and we got that. The Canadians showed up, which I was happy for. I'm pretty sure they all won. I could be wrong there. I'm pretty sure all of them won. So I thought it was good. I think I saw this on Twitter. Do you know Ben Davis on Twitter? You must say that guy. He tweets all the time. I think he said it's always the cards that are like the deadest on paper. They're always the ones that are the best. And I'm not going to seriously say this is like the in terms of fight, like excitement and everything. It was the best card ever, but it was better than a lot of pay-per-views I've watched. So I was I was happy with it. I thought it was pretty good. Good time.
For sure. I think the mistake I make, right, is I'm a sado. Like, I'm a sado. I look at fight cards, I get excited for all of them, and I find a way to get excited for them. If it's a fight night, if it's whatever. When you're so immersed in this bloody sport, you're watching Tough, you watch Dana White's, you watch people's interviews, you're just immersed in the scene. Like, you have mutual friends, you know their training partners. Every week usually has some sort of appeal to it, right? And I really enjoyed yesterday. I thought it had all the makings to be, on paper, it wasn't it weren't a great card for a pay-per-view. Like, that was a fact. There's no.
Yeah, I mean, that's just saying. I'm just grateful we don't have to actually pay for it.
There was no debate. Said that last week, there was no debate in that. Now, as a non-paying customer, I look at that and I'm BT Sport. God save our Queen.
Not complaining.
King. But yeah, BT Sport are a lifesaver. So we don't have to pay for it. So I always look at it in a different lens. Now, yes, the name value was not there for a payment card, but first one back in Canada. Mike Malott was in the card, which we'll get into in a second because I've always been super, super high on him since I first saw him. But it had all the good hallmarks of a good card. And the mistake I always make is I watch something, whether it's a film or a program, whatever it may be, UFC events often, and I think that was really good. I really enjoyed that. And then I'll go on Twitter, and there'll be so many people saying, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10.
And well, I mean, I think. Yeah, when you pay though, innit? There's a higher expectation.
People are not paying.
So I get that.
These are crooks on Twitter. Like, these are some of the most degenerative people there
streams.
Are. Have you been on MMA Twitter?
Yeah. It's a cesspit. I think honestly, football Twitter's worse, but it's a close second. Yeah,
it's an absolute cesspit, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
of degenerates, and I look from a distance because it can get messy. It can get messy over there on MMA Twitter. Like, it's absolute carnage.
It can.
But my point was, I go on Twitter and it's like 5 out of 10, 10. But I just think nowadays, I'm like, nah, I enjoyed that. It had good moments, good energy, good crowd. There was good finishes, exciting fights. And let's jump straight into the top. Let's not mess about it. Let's go straight from the top. Amanda Nunes, I'll give you my thoughts in a second. But Amanda Nunes, obviously, she had an incredible performance and then retired. Just tell me a little bit about what you thought about the fight and then also touch on the retirement as well.
Yeah, no, I thought... Yeah, it was, for me, like, watching that was kind of shades of her back in her best, I think. Like, obviously, we saw her drop off when she lost to Pena, obviously. And she came back, in the second, in the rematch, and obviously she battered her. Had a close couple of moments there when she nearly got submitted, though. But I think it was...
When?
It was the dominance. Yeah, do you know... I don't even remember in the fourth round. I mean, it was pretty close armbar in the fourth round. Pena nearly, got an armbar.
Sorry, you're talking about the Pena fight. Sorry, you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you meant
Aldana. Definitely not yesterday.
Submitted.
No. Yeah. But I think the Aldana fight, I think it was a reminder of, like, Aldana had nothing for her, and I don't know if it was the occasion or what, but it reminded me of the Megan Anderson fight. If you remember that one, there's that picture of her walking into the arena when she's just terrified. It just reminded me of that, which is a shame because Aldana can. She's better than that, and I'd say that I'd like to say that she is better than that, or it might be a case of Nunes being too good and her aura she must be terrifying to fight. So I kind of get the psychological effect there. I just wish there was more from Aldana because I think she landed that one clean right hand in the first round, and I got quite excited there. I was like, okay, there's chances here. And then after that, it was just nothing, and she took nothing, and she seemed just willingly, well, willingly or not, just take I don't know, to hold that, just be in those positions on the ground, and she had absolutely nothing every time. Nunes was playing with her, she would take her down and then just leave it, and it was kind of just every aspect. That was what I know. You said that last week. You got a good prediction there. You said that Nunes was, going to look for the wrestling, and I think that was a game plan a lot of people thought she was going to employ. But for the first 3 rounds, she didn't really go there, and I think it was just and I think maybe in hindsight, knowing that she was going to retire, I think she just wanted to prove on every front of the game that she was just the best. And I think she did that, to be fair. It's funny, actually, though, because I didn't even know. As soon as the fight ended, I was shattered, so I went straight to sleep, and I didn't even know she retired. I woke up, and then I saw on Twitter that she was retiring. I thought, what the hell? But at the same time, it doesn't really surprise me. I think she's done everything she needs to do. And to be honest, I think it's actually good. Everyone says, the women's MMA is going to be worse. I think the opposite. I think really gives a chance to the divisions to move, more competitiveness, which means better fights, and eventually that skill level as an average is going to go up, and we're going to hopefully be in a much better position, I think. Because I think seeing Nunes just win and win and win is a bit, it gets tiresome,
The thing that stood out to me the most with Amanda Nunes and Irina Aldana, because Aldana had all the skills to cause Amanda Nunes serious problems, but there was a moment in the embeddeds. Now, half of my brain was taking this jokingly, and half of my brain was actually being deadly serious when I thought of this. But in the embedded, you're seeing Irina Aldana, lovely person, lovely home in Mexico. She's got a crazy cat lady vibe. She's got 20 cats in her arms, and she's like, "I'm doing them for these beauties. We win for the cats." And then it cuts, and it's Amanda Nunes, the lioness, with her quite literal cubs. It's her young child running through the forest with her, and I'm thinking, this person's fighting for a little something more now. She's got her family there. She's fighting for her legacy, her retirement, her name, her pride, quite literally, in terms of both senses of the word. And when you're fighting Amanda Nunes, you really are going into the lioness's den, and I don't even mean that to be cringy. It's not just a name, it is an aura. It's an aura, and she mauls you. Like, she actually mauls you. It's the perfect word. And I actually think that fight last night for Amanda Nunes, weirdly, is probably the best we've ever seen her. Every time I watch Amanda Nunes, I always think you're better than this. Like, you have more levels. She's always performing to an exceptional level, but I always just feel like she's got more. She's got more.
I agree, yeah. She's holding back a little bit.
As a mixed martial artist, I think she's got more. And we saw that yesterday. As you said with the wrestling, she didn't even want to take it to the ground, but she just level changed just to throw her off even more. So now that you're seeing orthodox stances, now that you're seeing southpaw, which there's not many women in the world who switch stances, by the way, so you're not getting many training partners that are giving you that look. Now she's putting in a level change, and now the occasion is on top of you, and now Irina Aldana was absolutely fried inside and out. And John Anik made the observation on call, which he doesn't always say, but he said there was this absent look of Aldana, this absent look of confidence that she'd had for such a long time. And the last person who didn't have that was Juliana Pena. And you can say what you like about her, but she didn't have that. Like, she always had that look of hunger that she could and knew she could win.
Yeah, I agree.
And you saw how it played out. I mean, as you said, it was just almost... It was so frustrating because we know what Aldana's capable of, and we saw glimpses of it with the right hand. But Amanda Nunes put on a clinic. She really put on a clinic, and then when she needed to use that grappling,
you can't deny
she used it to full effect and absolutely dominated. But I just think she looked a bit gun shy, and the moment was too much for her. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as I'm saying, it tends to happen a lot with anyone that fights in this. That face she makes, it scares me, and I'm not even fighting. She's just smiling at you, knowing she's just got you in her pocket completely. So I get it. So it's a shame, but at the same time, I think seeing her retire, I think it's the right move for her. She's clearly on a different part in her life. So yeah, I'm happy.
And just touching on what you said earlier about this being a good thing for women's MMA, like, I 100% agree, to be perfectly honest. And for her as well, she really did grow up from a tiny town in Brazil with absolutely nothing. She's come to this sport. She's had incredible longevity, double champion, accomplished everything there is to accomplish in the sport, and she retires on her best ever performance, arguably one of the best ever performances, with 2 belts.
There's a lot.
And her gloves laid down in the middle of an octagon after a 50-43 scorecard in her favour. Now, whatever way you want to look at that, that is not how this sport works. MMA chews you up and spits you out. And when it spits you out, it does not spit you out on top with your best ever performance as a double champion. That is unheard of and that is unprecedented. So I think Amanda Nunes made the perfect decision and she retired at the right moment and her legacy will shine forevermore. We had the Juliana Pena rematch and that was settled in fans' minds. And now we had this. And I think now in her mind and fans' minds, there's like this comfort of, you are the greatest to ever do it. Go enjoy your life.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd want that we aren't going to get now, obviously, unless she decides to come back, is exactly the trilogy. I think because you say it's greedy, but that fight should have been made for a long time. Let's be honest, because I think I stand by that Shevchenko won that second fight, even though I'm a little bit biased. But it's a close fight, no doubt. But it's a privilege to watch those two fight. And I'd love to see that again just now. It's a shame because even now they're both past their primes, I think. I mean, that's no disrespect to Nunes because she's still the best by a mile. But, it's a fight that if it was made like a year or two ago, I think that would have done so well, I think. Whether in main event or co-main event, either way, I would love to see that because they're the two best on the planet by a mile, well, at least were. And that is a bit sad we're never going to get that. But it's her decision, not mine, obviously. So,
well, talking about best on the planet, that makes me think of one man, Charles do Bronx. Charles do Bronx with a ridiculous performance. The thing I'll say on this fight before I let you get into the X's and O's of it, I messaged my friend. Now, I've had in my head that Beneil Dariush is going to win this fight for months, as long as it's been scheduled.
We said
it's been
scheduled
forever. I said it on record. Now, people sometimes mistake that for me giving no chance to Charles. Absolutely incorrect. I thought Beneil would win. I didn't think Charles couldn't win. That would be foolish. Literally, most wins, most submissions, most finishes, everything.
Every
you would
time.
just be stupid. I would never. And we said on the show last week, never underestimate him. I saw one thing, again, embedded, and I love this because it shows me so much and it does give me insight into my picks. I messaged my friend as soon as I saw this because he was messaging me about the Charles Beneil matchup. And I said, all jokes aside, we've never seen the Charles do Bronx illumination, mum and dad starvation mode. We'd never seen that mythical fighter unlock, and I just felt this. I just felt this energy and this intensity. I thought, I think he's going to do this in quite ridiculous fashion, and I said that. And I mean, talk us through the fight from your perspective because that was wild.
That high kick, that right in the opening with that high kick, and it was landed. That was close. Like it was sort of only partially blocked, and I was like, and then he started with that forward pressure, and he went for that body lock and. I don't know if it was a hip toss or what, but then I don't know whether he botched it or he kind of settled for being on his back, because we know he likes to do that. But we know how good he is off his back, and he didn't threaten too much there. But what really surprised me was how, not his offense, but how little he got hit. I don't think he really got caught clean on the feet, proper, much at all, which is, he's willing to take one to give one in most of his fights, and we've seen that. And that's what makes him so exciting. But he really didn't, and Dariush is a credited striker, but he really didn't offer much for Charles, and that surprised me.
How much can you offer in a minute when the person just ball rushes you and just blitzes every attack at you?
True.
Because you can prepare for it, and because you know what's going to happen. This is the thing. Charles is so. He's the polar opposite because he's so easy but so hard to prepare for. He's so easy because you know exactly what's going to happen and exactly what he wants to do. But it's so hard because he does it to a level that you've not really ever seen before. And he walks in and he walks down these higher level guys. And I'm talking the best 155. This is what is going to happen after Saturday. There's going to be a lot of people who watch that fight now because Charles is a megastar. They're going to watch that fight and they're not really going to know a lot about Beneil Dariush. Oh, he's on a good win streak. Oh, like they may have heard that, but they won't actually know how good he is. And they'll watch that fight and they'll think, oh yeah, that was incredible from Charles, but he's just levelled. They don't realise Beneil Dariush is scrub.
That is a great win.
He's just no
Not
scrub.
at all.
He is as legit as they come. And you look at Charles Oliveira now, and he has finished all of bar none, the top 5. He has finished the top 5.
Is
now
it?
winning over a top 5 opponent in the UFC is impossibly difficult. You'll hear anyone say that. Finishing one of the top 5's opponents is even harder. And finishing all 5 is unheard of. Charles do Bronx Oliveira, it goes down as... he has to be the greatest... I'm just going to go off a tangent. He has to be one of, if not the greatest lightweight of all time.
That's a claim.
And my criteria...
So who else is there?
Just one last thing. My criteria for that
go,
is obviously everyone's going to be different, and it's not going to just be defenses and things like that. But it's just what he's doing and how he's doing it. Consistent.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the only other guy, I mean, you could say Khabib, BJ Penn maybe, but I can't really disagree with you. I think he's like the complete package in terms of what he brings to the table, not just as a fighter, but in terms of his personality. It's he's good when he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't even. I'll say he doesn't speak English. We'll get onto that. But the fact that he needed a translator, but it doesn't matter because his charisma completely like shines through, and the way he fights, obviously, that brings people in itself. But now adding the fact that he's learning English, and it's almost the fact that he can't speak it very well that adds to his marketability and his charm. Because I was laughing, I was smiling when he was chanting to Canada and Vancouver. Was it Vancouver? I can't remember. Probably not Vancouver.
I was gutted.
But when he I
was gutted.
What do you mean? What do you mean gutted?
I love watching interviews when someone's made the effort to bond with the fans and increase their marketability and speak English. And I have so much admiration for those people, and it's such a difficult language to do on top of actually getting your head caved in for a living. But when Charles Oliveira speaks Portuguese, there is this aura and this intensity to it that English does not have. And when I saw him on the mic speak English, as much as half of me melted and was like, Charles de Bronx, half of me just had this feeling like, I wish that never happened, because now it feels like Ali G when the person speaks for the first time and he goes, it's quite nice actually. And the voice just didn't match what I wanted it to match.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird. I personally, I was a fan. Yeah, but it adds to it though. But then, yeah, you're right though. When he speaks in Portuguese, it's fast and it's with like that sort of venom. So I get that. But then again, he gave us that well. So I'm not. I love him. I already was a big fan, but I think he just sort of cemented it there. I think there, like, I love the guy. I really hope he gets the belt back. I will be cheering all the way. If they make that match up,
I just think when you have a look at his career. And I was thinking this earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, and if you can think of anyone, please do shout out. And if anyone's listening, chuck it in the comments if I haven't thought of anyone. But I think of careers, and I mean, statistically, there's literally no one who's done what he's done. Statistically. Now, you can argue the X's and O's of his career is irrelevant, but statistically, no one has ever done what he's done. So that puts him in his own league in his own right. But when you think of someone who's been beaten so aggressively and publicly and tapped out and had these tumultuous times and changed weights and all of these things, and then gone on vicious winning streaks, and then the title run he went on, and then to lose in spectacular fashion to someone who was deemed this unbeatable, unmovable object, and then to come back as the underdog and say, I'm not done. I've not made money and bounced off into the sunset. I've not had my one moment of glory and that's it. And that's the pinnacle of my life. And I'm going to go off and spend all my money on teeth whiteners and cows in Brazil on my farm. He did not say that. He came back against someone who is the worst matchup you could have had in the lightweight division, in my opinion.
I think
Not
so.
only for skill set, but the fact that he has no brand recognition, really. And he came back and done that. And I just can't think of too many careers where they've scaled those heights from the lows, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of, on the point of coming back from, losing the title, like that's, in my video that I put out about the Usman one, that's what I kind of talked about. As a lot of fighters, they drop off, they lose the title and they lose that hunger, or maybe it's they're too old and this is the psychological battle. And they never really, come back to that same level they were. And if they do, it tends to, it doesn't tend to be a prolonged thing. Do you know what I mean? And for me, someone like Usman, I don't think he's going to come back and win the title ever. I think he's going to fall off pretty significantly, and I could be wrong there, but that's what I think. But it's different with Charles. If anything, that's the best Charles we've ever seen, that is terrifying for the rest of the top five, I think, because to lose your title, and that fight, let's be real, he didn't offer much for Islam. I was pretty dominant, but to come back like that against a guy who was, very, very difficult, difficult challenge for anyone in that division, and to look that good, he looked even better than he ever has done, and that is a real testament to his ability, not just physically but mentally as well. It's a mental battle to win there, very, very difficult to do. So he gets all my respect.
You're 100% on the money. It's the mental that impresses me. I mean, he's an incredible fighter, that's documented, but it's the mentality. It's just hard to fathom the gravity of the situation and the pressure and the immense, just unrelenting attention that you're getting on this as well. And that's the important thing, is when I look at champions, it's not just the skill to get there, but it's just all it's all the nuances, right? It's where are you mentally in your life? Where are your relationships in your life? Where's your, how healthy are you mentally, physically, spiritually? Is everything coming together at the right time? Is your training camps coming together? Are you recovering well? Is doing all these things and doing it to the 0.001% for 25 minutes on one day, a year, sometimes two, sometimes three.
Yeah.
It's just so incredible. So see Charles come back and do that at that level is just unbelievable. But Neil Dariush is, like we said, and we'll move on to the next one after this, but Neil Dariush, I genuinely believe, is just going to come back and be an equal problem to the top 5, top 10. I don't believe he's going anywhere just yet. I think he hasn't probably seen a fight like that and was probably a little bit caught off guard, even though he was probably expecting that a little bit. But yeah, that was just wild. But let me bring you on to the next one anyway. Mike Malott.
Go for it.
Because the reason why this man stands out to me is what I said to you earlier, actually, is you have an affinity to a lot of fighters if you watch Dana White and tough. And I watched him on Dana White's Contender Series and I heard his backstory. Laura Sanko does an incredible job of briefing you on their story, their history, their gym, everything, really. So you get a really good depth of knowledge on them. And he sounded really interesting. He sounded super interesting. His career, when he had a break, he went into training. He's the coach of an incredible team. He's got so many skills. You hear interviews with his teammates, so on and so forth. And everything just equated to an incredible fighter. And then I watch him perform in first round submission, guillotine choke, looked in sensational form on Dana White.
Was it second
kept
first?
happening.
Oh, do you mean... Okay. Yeah, so you said first round. Do you mean not his
on
not
Dana White's
last night,
Contender
Series?
Yeah,
okay,
it was. It was along the lines of a 30-second submission, one of the quickest submissions ever on Dana White's.
Yeah,
and every time I watched him fight, I just kept keeping an eye on him, and every time I've seen him, he's impressed me so much with his ability to. He's just very mature. Obviously, he's a little bit older, but where he had a long layoff and he went into coaching, he understood the game a little bit. He's just very comfortable now in his preparation and his skill set, and it's all coming together at a nice time. And I've said for a long time now, he's a real problem at welterweight, and we saw that again last night. What did you think about the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I know we said last week, I don't think either of us really pretended to know much about Adam Fugit, so I don't know whether how much of a credible
Yeah.
win that is really, but I know Matt Alert's skills, and something that really surprised me, I'd almost forgotten because he has been out for a fair bit of time. Just the speed difference, it was like light years, and it reminds me of Leon as well, welterweight. He's so much faster than some of those other guys on the feet, and Fugit was moving
Mm.
like a light heavyweight in there, or whether it was that or Mallet's just that quick, but he was just everything was just so much together, so much more together, and that takedown he
Oof.
got, it's just it was like it was so easy. He just made it look. I've never seen a guy make it look that easy in a while. And at that point, I was like, yeah, he's done. That's it. I know there's gonna be a finish here. It doesn't matter what it's gonna be. And he did well to actually adapt that choke a little bit because it was a guillotine and it was kind of he obviously didn't jump guard to finish it, and he sort of went over with it, and it was kind of an awkward angle, but he adapted really well, and then as soon as he got into a mount,
Oof.
if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong there. Yeah, and that is one of the worst feelings you can ever have. It feels like your neck's getting completely torn off. Because what you do is they lay when you get into the mount, the ideal thing is to do is you just basically press all your weight down. You just drop your hips completely. Yeah, drop your hips completely to the ground, and you just all that weight's down, and then it's just that torque is crazy. It's the worst gear.
You know what that makes me think of?
Just quickly, see how quickly Fu gets tapped there.
You know what that makes me think of? Sorry to interrupt, but that while we're on that topic, that choke, and it also made me think of how incredible Volkanovski's escape against Ortega was. Mounted guillotine, hips in.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's credit to him, eh? Jesus, that round is probably my favorite round in martial art and any MMA fight ever. That, or I think it was maybe round 3 or 4 in Teixeira.
Sorry to interrupt. I just had to say that one because that was on top of my head.
No, go. No, you're not wrong. Yeah. No, it was a good fight. I think also what really impressed me was the mic skills. Obviously, he had the opportunity being in his home crowd, but he really took it, and his charisma just sort of really shone there. Yeah, so I think he's definitely getting a lot of new fans there. It's almost a shame that the card as a whole was as weak as it was to a wider audience, because less eyes are going to be on it. Because if that was on let's say that was MSG or something, that would have been insane. He would have been a complete superstar, and he's not going to get the eyes I don't think that he deserves right now. But hopefully he will.
Devil's advocate though, what I would say to that is possibly that's even a benefit to him, because look at it like this, right? As we said before, let's say that was an MSG or a thing. The likely chances are, even though that was an impressive win, it wasn't against a branded name of such. He wasn't really a branded name beforehand, and he would likely blend into quite a spectacular card at MSG. Now, he had his own show, essentially, what it felt like with the media and with people knowing his name, in his hometown with an incredible win, where now absolutely everyone in that arena was waiting for the walkout, was cheering him, and then was celebrating at the end. And I feel like what that would do for his name and his brand in his home country to get that full backing is probably even more powerful than if he was just maybe on a big card in America, if that makes sense, where they probably don't care as much about him.
Good point.
I completely see with what you mean, because realistically, that's not going to do the craziest amount of pay-per-view buys. What I will say about this, before, I didn't know if I was tripping out. It was getting quite late. I'd had a Monster. I don't really drink caffeine that much, so I was getting a bit weird. But I was watching the walkout and I thought, am I tripping, or did something just crumble before his head?
Yeah, you know what happened?
The barrier just fell down, and the video is terrifying.
The barrier, yeah. He's pretty, and the thing is this close to hitting him as well. Could you imagine?
Did you see the bodyguard underneath? He got crushed.
Yeah, that would have been something. I didn't see. I saw one of the angles from one of the fans when they were filming his walkout, but no, I didn't see it.
It was not good. It was really, really not good.
I mean, it's the first.
It could have been really, really bad. But anyway, moving on to something a little bit more positive. The last thing I'll say on the Mike Malott thing is you look at that welterweight division now, it's getting so juicy. We've got the likes of Rachmanov, we've got the likes of Ian Gary, we've got the likes of Mike Malott, we've got the likes of Arguably my
Chimaev,
second favourite fighter to watch at the moment. Can you guess? Welterweight.
Okay, let me. Are they top 15 or? Jeff Neal?
I mean, Jeff Neal's a good.
What do you mean? Jeff Neal could crack. Don't disrespect Jeff Neal like that.
Jeff's got
Come on,
hands of
man.
steel, and Jeff is fun to watch.
Hands of steel Neal, mate.
You can't be putting me down to Jeff Neal as my second favourite fighter to watch, and I like watching Jeff Neal.
All right, fair enough.
Don't get me wrong. That fight with Rachmanov was an absolute screamer.
Yeah.
Jeff Neal.
I'm trying to think. I'm probably drawing a fat blank here. They top 10?
Australian.
Oh no, I'm kicking myself here.
This.
What is wrong with me right now? Oh, Madalena, yeah, JDM, yeah, mate, he can crack.
Another one, Dana White's Contender Series.
No, I love watching.
I remember watching and thinking, yeah, I jumped on that ship heavy. I was like, I'm all in. I was just all in.
Yes, he's got the best boxing, man.
Again, Laura Sanko, incredible job on the build-up. I watched his demeanour, just chilled, super relaxed. You think he's walking to the corner shop to get a cornetto. No, he's just having the biggest fight of his life. He strolls in and then he's...
Nasty weight cut, though. Have you seen that clip of him after his weigh-in? Oh, my God. They made him do an interview after his weigh-in. He literally can't even talk, and he's like neck is like pulsating.
Really?
He's so drained. And they're making him do an interview, and he's talking to like DC. Yeah, this was before the Makachev Volkanovski card. It's kind of messed up. They like DC and I think Bisping were like interviewing. I think right after their weigh-ins, he's literally like a zombie. It's kind of bad.
I didn't think that was.
But so hopefully that doesn't affect him.
Yeah, I didn't think that was too much of a problem. But it's also probably a case of he's just getting more dialed into it. Maybe there's a million things. Hopefully,
I don't know.
Hopefully, there's not a problem. But I mean, he's one of them people. He's got that frame and that strength and the skill set that if he said, you know what, I'm going to take 6 months off, I'm going to fully just settle into a bigger frame to my frame and go up to 185, he'd crush it. I think he'd crush it. Yeah, no, I genuinely do.
I mean, the only thing I want to see him is against the wrestler. Just him against the wrestler. I mean, that's what I want to see.
Way off tangent, but this was the interesting thing about. The thing you have to take into consideration first and foremost is his origins, right? So he's Australian, of course. Now he comes from a rugby background, so a lot of the bases, a lot of the frames are all very wrestling based, and especially now in good level rugby in Australia, they have wrestling coaches in their schedules. So actually, Kaikar France, for example, he runs a wrestling program at one of the AFL teams, or in New Zealand. Sorry, one of the the rugby teams. So actually a good grappler and underrated jiu-jitsu, and a lot of people said a similar thing about grappling and whatnot. And then he got his rear naked choke, jumped on the back and got a rear naked choke. Yeah, we're getting way off topic, man. That's my love for JDM is
we are. I'm not complaining though.
Yeah, no,
I love the guy. Yeah. I remember before because I was getting when I was watching with my mates at uni, and they don't really know the spot. I was like, I'm so hyped for this guy. Sit down, shut up, and watch. And was it Randy Brown?
Yeah, he did fight Randy Brown. There. Rude boy.
That was his last fight one. That was his last one, right?
Yeah,
that was.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna
double check. Him, right? Did he choke Randy? Mate, I watched too many fights.
Yeah. I'm just double. Yeah, no, it was that, but I'm just double checking if it was Randy Brown.
It was. Yeah, it was 1,000,000%. I remember. I remember making some content on it.
Yeah.
Right. A couple that I want to. You said you didn't watch the. While we're on the topic.
I watched the Curtis fight. I watched the Curtis fight.
Super unfortunate.
And all I could think of. Yeah, twice in a row. What's the odds of that? Getting headbutted twice in a row and it affecting, last time it went for him in, in the way that he ended up losing. But this time it was an injury, which is, in a way you can say it's kind of worse because it was only one round gone and granted he lost it. But, Curtis there's no disrespect to Curtis. He's a good striker.
It's possibly like a cornea abrasion, I believe they got as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I think
all I could think of was his Twitter rants, man.
Like, I knew that was coming. Exact same thing. He, he's an interesting character. Let's say that on Twitter. The thing I thought when I was actually watching that fight is it was going exactly how I thought it was probably going to go at the start, but I always thought that Chris Curtis's best moments were going to come later in the fight anyway, because we've seen Imavov tire a little bit. We've seen him be a little bit frustrated at times if it's not going his own way. And Chris Curtis is always a bit of a notoriously slow starter. But it's what I said to you last week, right? It's just the footwork sometimes of Chris Curtis. I thought it was going to be a struggle against someone like Imavov, who's very silky with his footwork. Chris Curtis, he just struggles to cut people off, right? Cut the cage down sometimes. He falls into the trap of following people quite a lot. And I just thought if that happens against Imavov, like, he's quite silky from the outside and he can play that game. But Chris Curtis always does well getting on the inside, and it was always a battle of can he let those combinations go on the inside. And I think we were going to find out, but it was a shame about that. But yeah, just segueing from the Australian conversation, someone that we spoke about last week. No, you would have missed this because you had to have a tactical nap. Because for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, in the UK, this is how it goes. We start the card at 12 a.m. The card finishes. It finished about 7 a.m. for me, I think, roughly around there, once I've finished watching it and stuff like that. So it's a 7-hour shift and a late hour. So a tactical nap is I tried.
I'd normally be watching the prelims, all right? Let's not make that's not a habit.
I didn't know. I was like, that's fair.
I ain't about that. Ain't about that.
There's nothing shameful with a tactical
circumstances.
Nap. Let's get that out of the way. There's nothing shameful. You need to be fresh.
Yeah, very true.
And I tried before the prelims. I really did. But I just chucked something on the TV just so I could fall asleep, and it was this new barbecue showdown on Netflix, and I got absolutely engrossed in barbecuing that I just couldn't even fall asleep, and I was fully wired. I was actually contemplating missing the first fight because I wanted to see how the geezer's baby back ribs came out, to be perfectly honest. It was kind of crazy. But
yeah. I mean, you can't even watch the early prelims on BT anymore, right? Or am I crazy?
I watch them on Fight Pass.
You got Fight Pass? Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
100% you need to get that.
Because there's a lot of guys. One of my coaches back at uni, he fights on Polaris sometimes.
Did he compete the other day?
Grappling. I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. He was on the prelims not that long
Polaris,
ago. But he's very good.
Quite a few people I know, to be fair, did really well on that. That Chanel Dyer, who I've spoke about before from GB Top Team, she's got an omoplata wrist lock. Mm-hmm. She's a striker.
What?
She doesn't even do jiu-jitsu. Obviously, she does now, but she never done.
Yeah, she got to do a little bit. Well, I never get omoplatas, man.
She just put a rash guard.
That's fair.
She's got an omoplata. I don't even know how to. She's an 8-time Muay Thai world champion or 7-time Muay Thai world champion, and now she started grappling. And she's getting omoplatas and wrist locks in Polaris on Fight Pass. It's it's a serious problem, and I won't put too many details out there, but Angela Hill came down to GB Top Team as well, and they had good rounds. They had good rounds. And Angela Hill's one of the best veterans in the women's game. She's an incredible Muay Thai striker. But this is the skill of the girl. Like she's really talented, so definitely one to watch. But as we were saying, on the Australian vibe, Stephen Erceg, Astro Boy, which is a great name. We spoke about him last week, and as I said to you, I've got quite a few accounts on my page who I chat to often who are ingrained in the Australian scene. So I get a good bit of information from them, and I watch their content as well just to get a bit of a pulse on the Australian MMA scene. And if you're any which way involved in that world, you would have seen this name so many times on your timeline because he's really been at the top of the regional scene for a very long time in Australia. Beat some very good competition, UFC caliber competition, and everyone's been singing his praises. He finally gets, after many complications, a call up on 8 days, 10 days notice to fly to Canada, which is, I've done the Australia to UK flight, which was just painful.
Yeah, if you're flying anywhere like East Asia. It's
a 2-day sort of trip, right? You leave your house one day and you sort of open your eyes, it's 2 days later and you feel like that, your neck's all, you know what it's like. You've got one of those neck pillows, they don't do anything, you're just sitting there like that.
I hate that shit. Never understood
Never
it.
understood it. I took it. I thought, you know what? I'm going to get to grips with it
Not a
this
neck
time.
pillow guy,
1
man.
week in, I chuck it. I said, anyone want this? It's terrible. My neck's on a right angle. I've never felt less comfort. But irrelevant. Stephen Ersic. Irrelevant. Stephen Ersic, complete prospect. And I got told that watch out for his grappling. He's probably going to go down there. And he's gonna take a submission against David Brack, who's top 15 guy, was on a 16 fight win streak coming into it, incredible competitor, high level opposition, ranked opponent, and he goes on there and quite frankly, he puts on a bit of a clinic towards the end. He had a tough first round. He struggled to find his range. I think he was on 8 days' notice. The boy was probably just warming up, to be perfectly frank. He probably body weren't prepared for this grueling fight. David looked really, really good. His footwork looked nice. His movement was nice. But then that was it. Stephen started finding his range. He started getting that jab out there. He started landing nice shots and combinations. His grappling then started coming into it. And I think every flyweight that was watching that sort of looked around and thought, okay, yeah, he's a bit of a problem, actually. Did you manage to catch any of the fight?
No, I didn't. I mean, I saw a few highlights of the prelims, but again, not something I normally do. So let's not
You feel like
it's
you've
not
got
the
to
norm.
justify yourself now,
But no,
don't
I
you?
mean, you called it. You did call it though. So I'm not gonna say I'm surprised because you called it, and
Yeah.
I'll take your opinion. Not for granted. So yeah, fair play. I mean, I'd like to see Australian MMA doing well anyway. Anywhere that's not the status quo, like Russia, US or Brazil, it's always great. So because it shows you how much the sport's evolving. So I'm always happy to see that.
Necessarily the be all and end all of Australian MMA knowledge either. Just because I thought they would do that didn't mean it was going to exact. But I appreciate the. I appreciate.
Well, you were right though.
I was.
Were you not?
But I genuinely, just all jokes aside, I saw it going like that. I've seen that David Vobrak fight multiple times, and he's got a really good skill set. And weirdly enough, that was actually the best I think I've ever seen him in that sort of first round and a half. It was actually some of his best stuff. It was actually one of his better performances. But it just spoke to more of the level of Stephen Ersic, and he looks like Ryan Hall. He looks exactly like Ryan Hall or Astro Boy, which is a little bit out of our age demographic, which they won't be happy to hear, but I think it is, or at least I'm not tapped in with the Astro Boy
I don't know
jargon. But
yeah, I'm not
very unassuming, like very ordinary rig, as they would say in Australia, very ordinary body.
They're the killers, man.
No redeeming qualities really. Like he doesn't. He's not super.
Oh, I've lost you on video.
Aggressive. He's not super outlandish with what he says, but he goes in there and he's an absolute demon. And Australian MMA is on an absolute surge. An absolute surge. I was speaking to.
No, I
sorry,
agree.
what was that? Yeah, come back to it. Yeah, Australian MMA is on an absolute surge at the moment. It's really exciting times, and I sort of spoke to Joe Lopez a little bit when I interviewed him out there, and I just said, what's the reason behind that? Why are we seeing so many top guys coming out of Australia now? And he said they've always been a good country of fighters. They've always had great boxers and great strikers and kickboxers and things of that nature. But now they've got that established wrestling and jiu-jitsu now over there over many years. And it's happening with a lot of countries. The infrastructure is just getting a bit bigger, right? So it's getting quite exciting. But anyway, moving on from UFC 289. So I know you said to me you had a couple of headlines from this week, or a couple of things that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, actually, right. I think it's happening right now. Leon Edwards is goalkeeper in soccer aid. I don't know if you've seen that. I don't know. I need to see after we finish this. I need to see how he's doing, or if he's like had a stinker or something. But I'm actually curious to see how he's doing. Head kick save or something. Could you imagine? Just boost it.
The truth about that is what I said on my Instagram is it's actually a really exciting sign for British MMA fans seeing Leon Edwards in the soccer aid.
I agree.
Because for a lot of international people that will be listening or seeing that won't mean a lot. But if you're English, you'll know that even if you don't watch or you don't care for it too much, it doesn't really matter. The biggest names, or the most relevant often names, are thrown into that hat. So to see him on that stage, on that platform, crossing over with the mainstream media is actually really exciting. Not just for the sport, but even just for ourselves personally, right?
Yeah, because MMA's always felt like a sort of, especially in England, a pocket that's just, it's an isolated thing. You're in it and you're in that space, and you know, or you just completely alien to it. And it's not like boxing. Like with boxing, there are exceptions like McGregor and stuff, but generally speaking, with boxing, there's always a bit more of a casual interest,
True.
just from anybody, particularly in England, because there's a bit more of a heritage there. But you make a very good point that seeing Leon in in a more casual, I don't want to, use the word, but setting, I guess, regular setting, it's a good thing. I remember when they got announced, I was really happy about that, because I can't remember if we mentioned it last week, but how he got snubbed for the Sports Personality of the Year award when he should have won it, and he didn't even get nominated.
We did it.
I don't know if we talked about that, but no, well that pisses me off every time I remember
Who won
that.
it?
Because it's just one of the most inspiring stories. I know some of the nominees were like someone in the curling team.
Nah.
Like, no disrespect, but who gives a fuck about curling?
We need to start drawing lines. I'm being deadly serious.
I can't remember who won it specifically.
I'm being deadly serious. We need to start drawing lines in society, because I love mostly every sport, watched every sport, played mostly every sport within reason. But we need to draw lines to where we look at mixed martial arts and we look at curling and we look at the two stories and trajectories, and we need to say, yeah, you know what? We'll leave you and your little ice puck for 5 minutes. This fella's just knocked someone out cold on the biggest stage of his life after overcoming all this adversity to become the world champion and change him and his family's life. And now it's changed the sport in a very, very dramatic way. We'll leave your little ice scraper to the side for 5 minutes, mate. That pissed me off.
Yeah, I think just MMA is not in that. It's still perceived like, I talk to my dad about it, and I try and get him involved. I'm like, yeah, Dad, you got to come look at this. This Leon Edwards, like this, he made history. Like, this is after he won the belt, and I'm like, you understand how big of a deal this is for England. And he just didn't get it, and he was like, oh, it's just a vile, he's like, it's a blood sport. It's I can't watch it. It's too violent. I'm like, see this, exactly, yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's not. Again, we're still not at that point where the sport is accepted as something prestigious to be involved in or to watch, and it's not given the same respect, even as a sport like boxing, which is statistically more dangerous. But because it's been around for longer, exactly. But because it's been around for longer, it's just people are like, oh yeah, it's boxing. Oh, I'll watch the boxing. It's Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and anyone will watch that. As I was saying, there's more of a casual audience there, but with MMA, there's still that big cultural disconnect, particularly with the older generations. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So I'm.
You want to hear a crazy
optimistic,
statistic that I think we may have mentioned even last week? The average boxing fight has 300 headshots. The average. The average boxing fight has 300 blows to the head. 300. I think Max Holloway set a record in the UFC's history for something along the lines of 400 significant strikes. Now, they actually count significant as anything thrown from range. So that can even be a jab, just a 1-2, even if it just hits the guard. So we're not even talking headshots at 400. And that's the most ever over 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Boxing is 300 per fight. But anyway, we could talk about that all day. The thing that comes to my mind when you say
that is
when you say about it being a blood sport, there's a meme where it says MMA fans, when they tell their friends it's the most exciting fight in the world, and then what happens? And there's just a north-south position where they're just holding each other.
Yeah.
That isn't the problem I got you. I've never had that problem. I have the problem where people view it as a blood sport, and they walk in, and I'm watching Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, really? Yeah, because I got my brother to watch that with that fight with me. I was like, thank God it was that fight, because that's one of the best, the best performances you can ever watch. Sadly, it didn't really get him into it because he's not really invested in that, and that's fine. It's not for everybody. But he didn't it's not like he dislikes it or anything. He is actually, he'll watch it occasionally. Like, he went to the London event with me, actually. But my mind's just gone. What was I going to say? Yeah. So a lot of times when I watch just UFC in general with my friends, particularly my flatmates, all they were just saying was how, it's, gay or whatever. Like, anytime it goes to the ground, it looks provocative or whatever. I'm like, mate, grow up. Grappling. Enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, everybody says it. Everybody, even my parents said it as well. Like, it's a bit erotic, isn't it? I'm like, no, he's setting up a
Yeah,
triangle
what
choke,
are you talking
mom.
about, Mum? He's got a love
God.
bar. He's not trying to, you know what I mean? Get your mind out the gutter, woman. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I never get that.
The thing is, everybody says it. I'm not joking.
I
Everybody I've
think
tried
it's
to get involved in it
I think
has
it's an
said
easy,
that
weak
along those
argument, if I'm
lines.
perfectly honest. I think it's just an easy. If
I
you want to
suppose, yeah.
reduce anything to the basics like that, you could do it with anything, any sport. You could do it about
Very true.
absolutely anything. So I wouldn't even. I don't even pay too much interest into that. A couple of headlines before we quickly have a look at the card next week. A couple of headlines I wanted to throw at you. A couple of things that I thought were interesting is number one, we got Chris Weidman retiring, which I thought was kind of crazy.
He retired?
That's wrong. He has categorically not retired. I don't know why. When your voice sounded so confused, I thought, why are you so confused with what I've just said? And then
Wait,
I did say that. No,
wait.
I
You
did
said
say
he
that.
retired, no?
Yeah, no, I did say that.
You did say that, and I was like, isn't he got a fight coming up?
No, he's
He's coming
returning.
back.
He's
I was
definitely
like,
not.
what? Yeah.
Thankfully, there may not be thousands enough people watching to go to clip that and send that out, and it to be.
Yeah.
That's sort of. I'll just tell this quick story. That's sort of just a quick tangent, but as I say that happened to me once, and it was a slight shift where I started realizing that actually stuff I put online can actually have an impact into the MMA world, because I was out one day. Oh my God. I was out one day, and people don't realise, right? Sometimes when you're putting out work or putting out posts or things like I do, you're doing 100 things at the same time. And you're on your laptop or you're trying to edit a video or whatever, and you're just trying to do things quickly, or you're out. Sometimes I'm having to put out posts. There was someone tagged me once when we was in Thailand. We were in a club, but it was prime time in England for my posting hours. So I'm like on Instagram putting my post up, and there's strobe lights and some random geezer just gyrating on a stage with confetti cannons. Irrelevant. My point is, you're not always giving it 100% focus, and I like to put out things that are accurate and what I actually think, and I'm not just trying to put out crap. But I'm putting up this video because Sean Strickland just put up some sparring footage, and I just watched him get dropped, and he just put in the thing like, oh, lol, hard rounds. And I thought, oh, that's funny. Strickland's put up a little video, he's getting dropped in it. And I just made a little post about it. Not saying anything horrible, just be like, oh, Strickland putting up some footage of him getting dropped, and like,
no. Anything involved with Strickland is going to be... I don't know where this is going, but...
I come back to my phone, whatever I've done, a couple hours later, a few hours later. No, that's a lie, actually. That's an actual lie. It was a day later. I come back to look at the post, not my phone, the post. Because Instagram's always just like, here's the comment. I'm not really paying much attention. I'm just on to the next thing. I come back to it a day later. It's got, I think, around about 10k likes or something, and 300,000 people have seen this post, and it's got 300 comments on it. Clickbait, you liar, take this down, you're a fraud. I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm like, what the hell are these people talking about? I watched the video back, right? I watched the video back, and he's thrown a really big right hook, but the other fella's thrown at the same time. But all that's happened is because he's overswung, he's like dropped to a knee, but it was perfectly at the same time as the other fella's swinging. So I've watched it back 4 times. It wasn't even the first time. I watched it back 4 times. It's like, oh, he slipped. I was like, oh.
No, the thing is, though, you're right. The thing is, MMA fans are so... If you miss the most minuscule detail, they are on you, man. They're on you. Like in my comment section, I get cooked for making the minorest mistake. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm sorry. I'm not the supreme overlord of MMA. I'm not going to get everything right. And if I make a slight error, like I accidentally said in one of my earlier videos, I said that Khabib, it was a typo in my script. Because I was thinking of the McGregor fight, but I said Khabib beat Gaethje in 2018. And I was in my head, I was thinking about the McGregor fight. And he's like, well, I've a million people in the comment section coming to slate me. I was like, bro, I can't. And I correct myself in the comments.
Nah.
And then, but no one can read that. Yeah. I get 20 more
I
people saying it as well. Anyway,
I
yeah.
go
Ranting.
strategically now down the route of I don't do crazy clickbait or wrong information. That's not what I'm looking to do. But when I've done a video and I've gone onto a piece of software and I've automated the subtitles and it gets a name wrong or a date or whatever it may be, I fully leave it. I just fully leave it
Yeah.
and I just watch people's little brains melt as they
I rate
see
that.
Prahashka spelt with 2 C's, not one. And it's sickeningly quite
God forbid.
enjoyable. But coming back full circle, Chris Weidman, yeah, he's returning Brad Tavares after that nasty leg break, and he said to Ariel, he went,
We're
first thing I'm
back.
doing, throwing a hard
Yeah.
leg kick.
Leg kicking him. Yeah. Yeah, he was actually he was at one of the Polaris events.
It was in England,
I
yeah.
can't remember. It was in
Doncaster.
England. And he met a couple of the
Doncaster.
yeah, for some reason.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he met a couple of the guys I trained with, which is cool. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, let's jump onto
I've got one last thing
onto
before we get
290
onto
because
that.
I'm so excited.
One
for
last
this
thing, and
one.
then
I think we might
Go
have
on,
the same thing as
go
me
on.
here. I was gonna say, the McGregor absolutely leathering that mascot.
I saw this, right? I made a post about it, and I just chucked it up. Again, not paying tons of attention to the video than my new shy of it. I looked at the video the first time I watched it, and I thought, Conor McGregor hits that fella pretty hard. And then I thought, you know what?
It's the second
It will
one.
be one of those illusions where the head is actually sponge and the fella's head's down here and he's crouching down and he's just levered it. It's fine. Whatever. Didn't think much of it. Again, a couple of hours later, I come back to my phone. The poor chicken in the suit, that's the mascot, has been hospitalised. And then I thought, hold up, what the hell happened in that video? First of all, I'm seeing Conor McGregor throw a perfect left hook onto a mascot and drop him. And then I'm watching him hammer fist him. And then I thought...
Yeah, it was the second
shot.
shot. That's the one that got him in,
on
man.
the floor aggressively. What? I thought, what's this segment? But apparently it was Conor McGregor's pain relief spray. So the marketing genius that Conor McGregor is, he lays out cold a chicken at halftime show and then sprays his spray on it as he's getting dragged out by the feet, and everyone's sort of looking at each other thinking,
I didn't even see that bit.
Don't think so, but we'll roll with it. But
I hope he's all right.
Yeah, glad
Chicken
you brought
man.
that up. That was quite bizarre. I think the fella's okay. He's on some pain meds, but apparently he's okay. No, the one I wanted to bring up to you before we jump onto next week's card quickly, and there's a few fights that we'll just have a look at, but the thing I want to bring up to you is, did you hear about Deontay Wilder in the PFL interviews?
No, but what I was going to say is the McGregor thing. It reminds me, you've seen the clip of Deontay Wilder laying out that mascot, right? That's what I was going to... That's an even worse one. He absolutely flattened him with that right hand. And he acts like... So, yeah. I mean, if that's the last guy you want to get hit by. But yeah, Karen. But no, I didn't see the PFL stuff. No.
When I was at uni,
I did actually.
I was at a...
Apologies, yeah.
We used to work at a holiday camp in term times for a little bit of money. Not an easy job, actually, to be perfectly honest. Quite knackering. Completely unskilled and untrained. And they used to shove you in a class with 37-year-olds and go, okay, cool, right, you have to go and just keep them entertained for 7 hours with events and games and stuff. I was like, okay, cool. But they basically, it was called Barracudas. And they had a...
Death sentence, mate. Oh, I used to go there as a kid. Yeah. Oh my God, what a throwback. No one's going to know what we're talking about.
You used to go there?
Like, no one. No, legit, when I was, when I was really young.
I don't know if you happened
That's
to,
mad.
but I don't know if you saw it a ton. But it's pretty cheap for the week. It's something like 150 quid. So just childcare-wise, it's cheap if you're working and it's half term and whatnot. So what parents do is, even parents with heavily special needs children are putting them in these holiday camps. And there's no sort of extra help or additional support, anything like that. So they're cramming over the requirements of what you're allowed to look after in terms of children-wise. It's meant to be 7 or 13 or something. They're putting 30 kids and 2 heavily special needs kids in a class, completely untrained 18-year-old, and they're going, all right, here you go. I'm sat there thinking, this geezer's just smashing his head through a wall. Everyone's going on their phone. They're 6 years old. It's carnage.
Jesus.
And I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to be an interesting week. But anyway, the reason why I say that is they came in one day and I was like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, where's the link, bro?
There's always a segue, and the segue to that is we went into the office one day and they went, "Oh, it's the open day for Barracudas. Can do you mind wearing Barney the Barracuda's outfit?" And I thought, no.
You're still. I'm still
mascot.
not following it.
Barney the Barracuda was the mascot. And they've got the big, mascot Barracuda there, and it was 30 degrees in the summer. And they went, "Oh, can you chuck this on? And you just have to do a few high fives." I said, "I am not doing that. Find some other scrub on minimum wage who can dress up in that and get attacked." And I watched this fella. He dresses up in the Barracuda thing, sweating his bollocks off, bearing in mind.
Mate.
And all that's happening all day is kids are just coming up to him, just booting him in the legs.
Conor McGregor just coming through the door, laying him out.
He's tired. A Barracuda, 150 quid a month in Essex, London. But Deontay Wilder, PFL, he basically said, for anyone that doesn't know, he basically said he would be down to potentially fight Francis Ngannou in boxing. However, also, which is the spanner in the works, down to potentially fight him in mixed martial arts under the PFL banner as well. What do you think of that briefly?
Yeah, and I know Ngannou caught some flack for that because he wasn't there. And that's just like, and people were saying, no, but I kind of agree with that though, because it was like a lot of the problems with Ngannou, at least in the eyes of the UFC, was that he wasn't a draw due to his own faults, right? It was his fault. And I guess that's kind of a point like that, a golden opportunity to, especially with how important marketing is. I don't know, but let's say he was, I mean, that's a golden opportunity for the PFL when they need eyes, especially now. They're investing so heavily in Ngannou. That's a golden opportunity. They would have known that Wilder was coming, I reckon. I mean, of course they would have done. So if they heard it, they could have called up, Francis, get down here. That is the easiest promo of your life. You've got the two hardest hitters on the planet. It's not a hard fight
Atlanta,
to sell.
right?
It doesn't matter how you do it. Just even having them talking.
How far is Atlanta from Vegas?
I'm not sure, but very far, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's the other side of the country. I could be wrong there. Probably going to get corrected.
Enjoy being wrong.
Actually, I'm kind of curious.
Embrace the ignorance.
I'm checking. I can't help it. No. I want to know if I'm right. That's what I'm saying. It's like near Florida. So not far off Florida. So
definitely does sound far.
About as far
I was kind of intimidated through the screen, even when I just saw Deontay Wilder jokingly talk about mixed martial arts, because thinking about that man in 4-ounce gloves, let alone Francis Ngannou, thinking about Deontay Wilder in 4-ounce gloves is equally terrifying. When you have, granted, he's not the most skilled technical boxer of all time, but he is a lifelong boxer with pedigree, So that's a topic of conversation for a different time. I guess this all brings us on just to quickly have a look at next week's card. Anything on there before we jump into a couple of them? Any fights on there that particularly stand out to you? Any that you're particularly excited about?
I'm just getting it up. I mean, I'm very excited for the main event. I think most people are as well, but because I actually think, I think people are really right.
Hold up, you're talking about 290.
I think
we got a card in between that.
We're on. Oh yeah, sorry, I was not.
Come
on. Let me. Actually, I saw who's Sarukian's on the fight now, right?
It always happens like this. When it's a fight night after pay-per-view, it always gets lost in the sauce a little bit just because of the promo that's been happening. But the fight card is Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier, which is the main fight. What do you think about that as a matchup?
Yes, yeah. It's not. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a barn burner. Let's be real. We got two guys who aren't. No, I don't think so. I think it's a pretty naff matchup, to be honest. I mean, I like both of them as as characters and as people. I think they're a laugh, but their fights. I'm not going to. I don't think anyone can sit here and say that they expect that to be a a fight of the year, is it? Like, I mean, it's not for a
True.
main event. I mean, I've seen worse main events, put it that way, but it's not.
I,
But it's not. You know,
yeah.
it does. The main card as a whole is actually pretty good. So I'm
See,
not for a fight night. So I'm not gonna
I've got
disrespect
to
it
say,
too
I
much. It could be
disagree
a
a
good
little bit with
matchup.
that because, in terms of it being the best fight to make at middleweight, not necessarily the most exciting, but if you look at fight night main events, I mean, name value, actual matchups, what's on the line, I think it's pretty fun. You look at Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori always comes to
Yeah.
scrap. That man is just undoubtedly one of the best chins in the organization. I think sometimes I
Yeah,
do
very true.
watch him and I just think that his game is it's like cooking. I look at it like cooking, and I'm going off. I'm just going off on so many weird
Got to bring
tangents
cooking
today,
in there.
but
No, I
it's
don't
how
blame
I
you.
see it. Right, you have a nice dish, and you enjoy it. You're enjoying the flavors. It's tasty. It gets you from A to B. It fills you up nicely, and you're happy afterwards. That's Marvin Vettori. It's a game, but there's levels to cooking where you just take it to the next level and you just start layering the flavors in the dish. You just start toasting the chilies before you start putting them in the dish. You start browning meats before you start putting them in. You start getting different textures and layers and densities,
Making me
and you
hungry,
start
man.
mixing all these things together, and it starts creating a better all-round dish. I sometimes, when I watch Marvin Vettori, I just feel like he hasn't shown enough layers to his game to show me that he's going to be a world champion. He's got top 10, he's got top 5 skills, 100%. Very good grappler, incredible gas tank, great cardio, nice boxing, dog, nice body kicks.
Yeah, it's almost like he's it's almost like he's sort of like
Yeah.
70% everywhere.
No.
Do you know what I
You're
mean?
right.
I don't know how else to put it. It's like he's good, but he isn't there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's a really weird case because I
Yeah,
think
really.
he beats
Okay.
Cannonier pretty soundly, to be honest. If I had to just go for a pick right off the bat, but it's a weird one. It's a really weird one. He's a weird fighter to watch.
100%.
Kind of frustrating at times.
I do like watching him fight, and I think he's really good. The thing I think he's got on his side, which is we have to mention, is his age. Super young, super young. I think he's floating around sort of 26, even 27. He's so young, and he's been in there with Adesanya multiple times. He's been in there with Bobby Knuckles. We're talking about some of the best, not some of the best, the best middleweights in the world, and he's so young. And he's never been that far away. You know what, I say that Bobby Knuckles fight was an absolute whitewash. So he has been a little bit, but it's Whitaker. My point is, he knows he can compete with these guys. And he has the mindset and the mentality to go away and do that. We've seen Cannonier at times. We've seen him against Izzy be a little bit gun shy. We know that Izzy can do that to people. Obviously, he's had wars before. He's been at heavyweight, light heavyweight. He's got knockouts everywhere. I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive against Marvin Vettori than he has been more recently. Derek Brunson, he had obviously a very impressive dominant win, but as many wins as Brunson has, I'm not
Strickland
a hater of Derek Brunson. I just watch him, and when people beat him, I think that's what you should have done. And that's so disrespectful because he's got so many wins and he's a great wrestler. That's what you should have done.
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say the fight I was really annoyed about this because I'm excited now, but he fought on 286 in London, and I was so excited to watch him make his debut because he's probably one of the most like hyped prospects in like out of Cage War as well, like Christian Leroy Duncan, and then he's fighting. I'm very excited for that against Arman Petrosian. That's a good matchup, and I was really looking forward to him really putting on a show in London. He's gonna lay him out, and then I can't remember he was fine, but the guy got injured, done his knee in or something, and like his first or second round, I was like, "Come on, man!"
If I pulled that out,
it could be. I'm not gonna
big
fact check you there.
It's big if I pulled that out. I think it is. It was a tough match. Like that's a really hard matchup, by the way, to get on your. Was it Jotko?
What did you say it was?
Oh, Todorovic.
Nah.
Without sounding like a terrible person, I was thinking.
Close.
thinking
No,
Eastern
I get you. That
European,
movie.
and I was just
Yeah.
blending a couple together. I had even Mark Barrio in my head, and he's not even Eastern European, but he looks it. He looks it. He does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a decent card to be on. Like
It's a
on
bloody
all though,
great
like I'm
card.
just looking at the prelims as well. It's not bad. I've seen worse fighting. As like the first fight actually is Zach Puaga, who's the guy. He's the guy against Modestus Bukauskas as well, which is
That
that's a
was
great
my
fight.
ones to watch.
Because Bukauskas is really
That,
really talented. Yeah. Yes, and Parker's the guy. You know, he nearly won the Ultimate Fighter. Unless I'm wrong there, he got not Usman's brother knocked him out, but he can crack.
yeah,
But
Zach
Bukauskas, I'm a fan of, so
Pulgar is
I'm looking forward
a
to that one.
athlete first and foremost, right? So he was in the NFL. He was a tight end, I believe. So defensive. See, I'm saying these words and I'm
I don't know
flexing
what
a
that means.
little bit.
I'm not versed in
I'm
NFL,
not.
man. Yeah, I watched the Super Bowl and I
I
was
watched the
bored as
Super.
shit, so
You know what
I'm
it
staying
was?
away from that.
It's more so I watched Last Chance U. If you've ever seen that. Oh my goodness!
Nope. I don't.
You need to watch Last Chance U. Oh, you're gonna have a field
What is
day
it?
watching it. This is right up your street with what you do. This is, I would say, in terms of
Go on then.
documentary making, filmmaking, storytelling within sport, Last Chance U is second to none. I don't think there's anyone who's done it better than them, what they do. And they basically just document. You have this thing called, it's irrelevant. Basically, college football, they document the season and they go into the lives of the people. Like
Oh, like
all
All or
or
Nothing.
nothing, but
Yeah, I got you.
better, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Yeah, better, more authentic,
Ah,
more
fair enough.
intriguing, more layered, more context, more grime. It is honestly
Yeah.
a really incredible series.
Mm.
And that segues us a little bit, but it actually sort of, I mean, this is what this podcast is for, I guess, is just for us catching up and conversing what we're doing, projects we're working on and stuff like that, along with Fight Chat. So
Yeah.
I may as well just
Exactly.
bring this up. But basically, a project that I'm working on with GB Top Team is obviously I'm doing my GBTV, right? My weekly episodes. But essentially what they're acting as is not just promotion, but awareness for the gym, because I'm also helping on a project that they've sort of had going under the workings, in the pipeline, sorry, for a little while. But they essentially want to create a Last Chance U for the gym. So longer documentary episode type things with individual fighters and really getting into obviously their story, their life, their journey, different things like that. So yeah, be helping out a little bit on that project, which is which is quite cool actually. It's really cool because
Exciting.
I'm a massive, when you watch this
Very.
show, you'll, in terms of Last Chance U, you'll see why I love it, because you'll love it as well. It plays right into what you enjoy, and it doesn't really matter what the sport is, whether it's American football or basketball.
Yeah, if you can storytell, that's what got everyone into
Exactly
F1.
that. Yeah.
Drive to Survive, because it's the narrative exactly. And I find F1. I used to watch it because my brother was obsessed with it. Like the same way I am with MMA. And I got into it a little bit then, but that was before Drive to Survive, and then Drive to Survive came out, and now everyone's into F1 now. Everybody, and it's purely because of the Netflix
as
show.
well.
So
when
yeah,
I watched Last Chance U,
I'll give it a crack.
I said to the coach there, Ash, I said, it's funny because he called me up and he said, when he watched the first episode, he said, well, I've got this idea. And he said, word for it, have you ever seen Last Chance U? And I said, let me stop you there. I've got DMs over a year ago messaging the director saying, you need to come and do this for MMA. You need to come and do this. You need to come and paint your art on this easel that is MMA, because they have the most incredible stories and trials and tribulations of any journey, of literally any journey. But so yeah, that's an exciting project that I'm sort of working on a little bit. But yeah, that Zach Bulger and Modestus Bukauskas is obviously quite exciting, because sort of know Modestus a little bit. Obviously when I worked Caterers events, he was there competing and got some some of my favourite photos
Yeah.
actually that I've got of events with Modestas, and it's when he's just won the belt. He's come back from one of the most gruesome injuries the UFC has, the worst knee injury the UFC has ever seen. Ever seen, against one of the
rough,
scariest men in the sport, Khalil Roundtree. It was Khalil Roundtree, wasn't it? Was it Khalil Roundtree? Who was it?
No, he didn't.
It was one of them.
I got it. I can double check for you right
Khalil
now.
Roundtree. One of the,
Yeah.
one of the scariest freaks in the organisation.
He lost.
Let's not mince words. He's just
that guy's terrifying.
The fact that you have the balls to go on live TV massive. In your underwear and fight this fella basically bare knuckle to the death, that's impressive. And then for the injury that he got, and obviously I followed him at the time. I didn't know him or necessarily have a relationship. I followed him. I watched his journey. I'd message him occasionally. And when you're just seeing the behind the scenes a little bit more of what that injury actually does to a person, how long they can't move, how long their legs up in a cast, essentially, they can't train, they can't do anything, their mind's spinning. He gets released on that loss. The mental fortitude that was required to bounce back from that was really, really astonishing. So watching that win in Cage Warriors, some of my favourite photos they got. And just in terms of the matchup, like I said, obviously very athletic on the other side and hits pretty hard like any light heavyweight does, and he goes A to B very quick, and you got to be careful and mind your P's and Q's. But I just think in terms of level of competition and experience, I think Modestas Bukauskas is way ahead. It is just way ahead. And I think this is a level of competition that Zach Porger has not faced before. And I think that he is going to be a lot better from the last time we've seen him, because he is still very new to the game and learning a lot of techniques. But I don't think that is going to be enough to bridge that gap.
Yeah. It's the experience. It's one of those ones, It's one of those ones where just experience is the advantage there. You know, I think Bukauskas, I think I could see a finish.
I've seen him working a lot on a
TKO, definitely.
He's actually incredibly agile for such a big geese. I don't know if many people know this, but the reason I actually know of Modestas Bukauskas is through my friend, actually, Frankie, who got me into MMA. And he said he was sitting down one day, and it was a Saturday, and he was watching. Have you ever seen Take Me Out? But you've seen it, you know the concept. For anyone that doesn't know, anyone that doesn't know this listening, basically a man comes down a tube, and there's 30 girls in front of you, all with buzzers.
Yes. You can't just start with a man comes down the tube. Like, what?
What more do you need?
It's a TV series, just to clarify. Yeah. No, I know, but you didn't press. You didn't like press. You didn't apply it as a TV show. You just said a man comes down the tube. It's like a regular thing.
I'm not telling you where. I'm not telling you when. That's what happens. 30 girls in front of you, attractive girls, all with buzzers. You have a big teleprompter that basically is your friends slating what a terrible person you are, and then you have to give some cringe spiel about, "Hello, ladies, I'm Will and I'm from London." Whee! They all do the same thing, all the same intro, all the same intro, and then you have like a little skit where you have to do a little skill or something. And my friend was watching it, and the fella said, "My name's Modestas, and I'm a fighter from London." And my friend said he googled it, just expecting him to be some scrub, because my friend was quite into MMA at the time, not like ridiculously, but quite into it. And he said he was Cage Warriors champ.
Oh my god!
He said he was Cage Warriors champ, and my friend
I'm gonna go look at this.
Loved it.
I have to see this.
Away. So that's actually how I knew about him, which is quite funny. But his dad also, his dad's a bit of a legend in the game.
Jesus.
He's not a super well-known name, but for those in the pits of the UK MMA game will know him and will know him well, because he's been coaching at a very high level for a very long time. And people in the gym like GB Top Team, such as Corey Tate, that was his first training coach, who also worked with Sam Patterson and things like that. So yeah, he's been around the scene, and he's a high level mind. So I'm excited for that one. But I guess that brings us on to probably the last main sort of big fight on that card that I cared to talk about too much. We spoke about Leroy Duncan a little bit. Well, actually, we'll talk about him now. How do you sort of see this fight going? Because, yeah, he's an exciting prospect, actually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if just from the way his other fights have gone, I'm just seeing a knockout, really.
Yeah.
I think that was where his debut was going to go, I want to say. If you take out that injury, I think if anything, that's going to spur him on even more, right? To really get that and make a statement, because he just didn't get the chance to do it last time. And that could actually be a problem, actually, because he could be so eager to get in there and get a finish that if it doesn't go his way, energy gets sapped and everything. But I don't see that happening, but it could.
He seems pretty level-headed, KO, he seems pretty screwed on. That I feel as if that won't affect him too much. With that, he got his show money, he got his win money, and he went home without a scratch. So as much as that was a disappointment to not show out, he still went in the win column. He still made a bit of money, and he still, I know.
Yeah, very true.
Of course, but always better to have two sums than one,
much,
So
that's the game.
And Arman Petrosyan is no joke as well. Like
very
very, very high level striker. High level striker comes in really good shape. Hits like a truck. Hits hard. Hits very hard, and looks like he's made out of granite. So it sort of shows you the level of what the UFC think CLD is on, because he's a very well-rounded fighter. But this is probably going to play out on the feet, I imagine. I probably imagine that this is going to be a kickboxing fight in 4-ounce gloves. Yeah. And Leroy Duncan reminds me a little bit of Cyril Gane. He's got
I can agree with that. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Almost karate vibe, the low hands.
It's the frame,
the stance, the blitzing style. He sort of throws similar-ish attacks. He's got spinning elbows, up elbows, like little trip. He's got a lot of tricks in his arsenal. Actually, I'm very excited for that one. The last sort of fight that I want to sort of get your thoughts on, because we've got one of the. If you're in the know in MMA, there will be one name that's almost in your head as a dead certain champion in years to come, and it has been for a few people. And he goes by the name of Arman. No, he doesn't go by the name of Arman Petrosyan. He goes by the name of Arman Tsarukyan.
No, steady.
Where do you think his ceiling is?
There it is. Yeah. It's a weird one, because in his last fight, I can't remember off the top of my head who it was against.
Alvarez.
Unless you know,
KO'd him, busted his nose open, beat him up.
No, it was Ismagulov, wasn't it?
Ismagulov. Damir Ismagulov.
Yeah, it was Damir Ismagulov. So I got exactly, and that is an incredible win, and he really took him there. But what what really I need to see more of is him on the feet, really, because we all know how good he is on the mat. Like, he's one of the few guys who, granted, he lost, but he's one of the few guys who really challenged Makhachev. Back when and he was, even earlier in his career than in Islam was at the time when they fought. So there's no question on the ground, and we've seen that, how he's just relentless pace, like on the mat. He does not let go, and if you do manage to get up, he'll bring you straight back down, and that's fine. He's proven that many times. He doesn't need to prove that, but I just want to see him on the feet more, because I feel like, it's MMA. At the end of the day, you need to be a champion. You've got to be good everywhere, generally speaking, and I need to see more of him on the feet before I can really say he's going to be a challenger for the belt, because. Everyone's you always get these guys who are hype trains, and they have that invincible aura, and then they get clipped and they start to challenge on the feet and they can't hang. It's like Chimaev. He had that aura, right? Two significant strikes against him in 4 fights, which is ridiculous. But it wasn't because of how good he was on the feet, really. Granted, he knocked out Meerschaert, but it was how good he was on the ground. And then the moment he tried to fight someone, he's got even Gilbert Burns, who, no disrespect, but there's a lot better strikers than Gilbert Burns. And Burns took it to him and really had a lot of success there. And that happens with a lot of guys. So I want to see more of him on the feet before I can say he's a certain lock on the belt.
Arman Tsarukyan is, I think he's I think a couple of things really. I think number one, when your grappling is that high level, it's easy to always go there because that's usually your path to victory. And secondly, the fights that he's been having happen to
Yeah.
just be grapplers as well. Demiris Magulov, you look at Joel Alvarez, who Mark Diakese from GB Top Team's fighting actually on UFC London, who's an incredible grappler. He's got 16 submission wins, and most of them are guillotines on his thing. So as a wrestler, that's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Like, beat him up, beat him to a pulp.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is his defense, his boxing's nice. He's got some nice boxing, like just in terms of just hands, footwork, balance, just basics. Really nice fundamentals and pretty well drilled. So I do think, I'm not going to sit here and say he's 1,000,000% going to win the belt, but I do think, I look at this fight with Joaquim Silva. Silva is not full, I believe, the pedigree of the Arman Sarukians. Arman Sarukian's been in there with the best, like factually has been in there with the best, competed with the best, had probably arguably the toughest first 4 fights in the bloody UFC ever. He's fighting like Makachev and Ismagulov, and I can't even remember who the other. Gamrot. Oh my goodness! You talk about murder's row. This man has just been forged in fire. This man has been. He's never lost.
And even in the losses, he hasn't looked bad.
You know,
like the losses. You know, you could argue he won both of those fights.
He's never lost a fight.
Yep.
He's lost a decision, but he's never lost a fight. And he's a real competitor. He's got a great gas tank, great conditioning, super young, not a lot of miles on the clock, great grappling, improving boxing. He's a real problem. I'm looking forward to that one. So we've got a couple of juicy fights actually. It's pretty good fight night. We've got a card every week for every week for 4 months. So
it's not bad.
We're pretty blessed. But before we wrap up, anything that you want to touch on?
Plenty to discuss.
Anything that you've been up to this week? Did you posted your video yesterday?
No, not really. I don't know. I'm kind of just I'm trying to get more done. Yeah. I mean,
why do you think that was?
That was a bit annoying because it didn't do that well, but I talked to some people. It was definitely the title. I think just not including. I think because when you focus on a specific, what I realized today, when you do a video on a specific fighter, you need to bring in the wider audience. Because if you isolate, because if you just talk about it's on Usman. If you're just talking about Usman, it's only going to bring people who are interested in Usman, not just the UFC. If that makes, I know that sounds a bit weird, but that goes for anything. You need to draw in a wider demographic of people. So if they're finding a way to incorporate, because the video itself would appeal to anybody, but the actual way of bringing people in the title and the thumbnail, I needed to change. I wish I didn't do it the way I did. I wish I found a way to make it more accessible and appealing. Something that I'm a bit more abstract.
Why did it get hate?
Saying, talking about this UFC champion, blah, 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 whatever, rather than just saying Usman. Oh, yeah, a little bit of well, I say clickbait. I said that I implied in the title that Usman was on a downfall, and I guess a bit of it's an overused term these days in the UFC scene. But like the video itself was unbiased and jaded, and I just laid out the possibilities of why he lost to Edwards, where he could go from here, and the outcomes that could possibly happen. I never said that one thing was going to happen or another. But it was generally from the title. I got one guy who said, "Shout out to this dude." He said he's going to ensure that he blocked me from his recommendations, and I was like, "Thanks." Like, you taking the effort to go and do that. I was like, I appreciate that. And there's another guy who just said, this guy's commented on my videos before. I don't know if he sees this, fair play. But he was like, he commented on one of my Casuals Guide videos, and he said I was like stealing from Jack Slack, which was never my intention when I started, because I completely forgot Jack Slack did those stuff, did his series. But then he watched the video. He's like, "Oh, but the video is actually pretty good." So I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he commented on this one saying, "Your title suck." And then 10 minutes later, he said,
but if
"Oh,
we
but
actually have a look at that comment, he's actually given you the best constructive criticism
I'll take that.
He's literally just said,
"Yeah, I'm not going to complain.
Rubbish, content's great."
Yeah,
he's actually giving you really nice feedback.
The title could have been better.
You should be grateful for this guy. But just touching on that.
Yeah,
quickly,
so I got a little bit of flack for that.
That's hilarious because
it's whatever.
If you've been unbeaten for 900 years, you're on a 16-fight win streak, and then you lose 2 in a row. That's fair enough to sort of call that a downfall by your own standards, your own incredibly high standards. So that most definitely is not clickbait, and a downfall. And
it's a decline.
Like I said, you go into the video, and I can imagine it's pretty fair and reasonable and objective anyway. But of course it is. You have to.
Yeah, no, it is. It's completely objective. Like, I add a little bit of my own. I chime in
People
with my
don't
own.
get it, right? As
a bit of opinions on here and
as
there,
a consumer, we subconsciously engage in whatever is the most provocative title to us, which stirs up this emotion and this sort of intrigue into the subject or topic. However, when that is done, the person then sometimes turns around and says, it's a bit too strong, as if that you're going to write a title that says, Kamaru Usman is on a slight slip after being very good, but he's still very good. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not going to
And you did.
I'm going to be dramatic. That's the point. I want you to click. Yeah, that's what I actually replied with. I was like, I said, I made you click though, innit? You said the title's bad, but you're clicking on the video. But I do feel a little bit bad because I like to add a little bit of... I always like to add, I've started adding just like a 10-second, 20-second, just funny like clip at the end. So right at the video ends, there'll be like 2-3 seconds of black, and then I'll add something in right at the end. So if you stay there, you'll see it. And I don't know if you remember this. Do you know when Ed was knocked out Usman, there's that photo of him with his eyes like wide open. You must have seen this. Someone edited it of, you've seen Indiana Jones. There's that shot of him like looking at like the golden idol. Like, I don't know if you must. There's that frame. I bet someone photoshopped that picture of him with his eyes wide open onto the Indiana Jones thing, and I found it so funny. So I dug that up and I just put that there with the Indiana Jones music. Every time I look back at the editing, I'm cracking up. So I was like, I got to put it in there. So I put it in there, and only like one person
doing it for the minority, in the comments.
Though. And I was like, at least there was that guy. He saw it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I've just. Yeah, no, but the thing is, I felt a bit bad because it's like I do like to be a bit professional, but at the same time, I want to have.
I saw something this week.
No disrespect.
I can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but I sort of tried to take the same approach, right? It said something along the lines of, okay, so it was Gareth A. Davies, actually, that's who it was. I do remember who it was, and it was on Errol Hawani, and he said when it came to writing about fighters and things like that, and I 100% take this approach. It says I don't or won't write anything that I wouldn't say to their face. And I think that's quite a good marker of where to... and it's personal, right? Because you get some trolls that are on Twitter which will say egregious things. But for me personally, I just resonated with that because when I'm writing a post, I will write it, not with that at the forefront of my mind, but in terms of like being somewhat respectful, like I do always look at it like that. If I'm looking at drawbacks, yeah,
same. I agree. There's a time for a bit of humor, but the professionalism is important. I think, especially if you're trying to storytell. Like, I mean, for me specifically, since that's the route I am with my content, it's a storytelling.
Sure.
I like the script and the narrative to be clean, and it needs to be precise. So I think you kind of have to be a bit respectful and professional and objective. If you are doing that, it just comes naturally with
anyway, that pretty much
style of content you're making.
For today. We've had a little preview of UFC 289. We've had a little look at the UFC Fight Night next week, a little bit in between, all that good stuff, a ton of side tangents and very random misdirections, barracudas and dressing. I don't even know. Yeah, completely went off topic. But everyone that tuned in, thank you as always. Thank you for your support. Please drop a question. Feel free to hit us up on our socials at Casuals Corner MMA and Leo Cooper on YouTube platforms, on Twitter, and also the personal on Instagram as well. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. As always, take care of yourselves. Peace.